Hi everyone. So 3:30's come and we're going to jump into this Wushka webinar. My name's Hope Brewer. I am the Teaching Aid School Representative for the Auckland region. So some of you may recognise me. This one too. Can you please make sure that when you join that your mute is on and that your camera is off, just for the quality purposes of this video. I'll let you know that I am recording this. So if you would like a copy at the end, email support@wushka.com.au and they'll send out a video copy of this webinar so you can use it for reference, share it with teachers who may also need help that couldn't possibly join today. Also, you can have a copy of the chat as well. So feel free to jump into the chat now or throughout this webinar. I've got Carolee Newcomb joining me. She's another rep based in Australia and she'll be answering any of your questions that you have today. So with this webinar, I'm going to talk about Wushka, all of the different parts to Wushka, to give you some tips and tricks. Feel free to ask those questions, but I'll leave time at the end to go more in depth with training, or if you'd like me to recover something, I can, and we can just have an open discussion to just get you up and running with Wushka so your students can hop on. So I understand that you're all very busy at the moment, especially being level 3, and some of you will be going back on site tomorrow. So I do thank you very much for joining me and taking time out of your busy afternoon to be here. So most of you would have found that when you first joined up to Wushka, you would have received 3 forms. The first one would have been an agreement, remembering that Wushka is free until the end of June. The other 2 would have been your student information and your teacher information. Once you've sent that through, the team take over and we set up all of your classes for you. So if you are cross-teaching at all amongst classes, please let us know so we can mirror that within Wushka for you. Also, once you have signed up, you'll receive an email from your local rep or Wushka specialist offering you some PD. So it's great that those of you who have joined us today, but if you feel like you need another session, maybe one-on-one, or you're unsure, feel free to reach out to our support team at Wushka. Carolee will write the email now for you in the chat, and also to reach out to your local rep because we're here to help you. All right, so I'm going to be navigating around the Wushka website for you, and I'm going to share that for you now. Just bear with me. All right, so you should all be able to see my Wushka screen. So once you get your logon details, coordinator, you'll get a separate set. You won't get an email directly from the Wushka site. It will probably be from the Wushka team or your local rep. You'll log on, make sure you enter in your username and password. Coordinators, you'll be able to see 2 different dashboards. So your program coordinator dashboard is where you can manage teachers, add new classes or mass amounts of students and see data across everyone who's been added. And we're going to be looking at the teacher dashboard today. So it's more about your classes and knowing how to create a group, add students, allocate books, and ways that you can continue your remote guided reading program, independent reading programs. And I'm going to talk about project groups as well today. All right, so when you log in, this is what you'll see, a range of colored tiles. Today we're going to be looking at manage class list, manage reading groups, student login, helpful resources, and the reading boxes. So I'm going to jump into the reading boxes first. Just while that's loading, we've got 15 different reading boxes starting at magenta level 1 right up to black level 31++. So some people may think that Wushka is just for the junior school. It's really not. It's for students right up to year 8. And I'll show you a book from some of those higher levels which have fantastic support content in them. So this is what it looks like when you first log on. You've got all of your leveled readers, and I've had feedback from teachers using it saying it's fantastic that we have remote learning and still our leveled readers. The reason I'm taking you here first is purely because of this filter button. When you click on the filter button, You can filter by theme, for example, your inquiry topic or students' passions. You can also filter by fiction or non-fiction. This is great. Later on, you'll be able to see if students are swaying more towards one or the other, and you'll be able to allocate books suited to their needs. You've also got comprehension strategies. So these are fantastic if you've got a particular learning intention that you wanted to focus on, and these can be drawn from your statistics later on once students log in and start doing their comprehension quizzes. You'll be able to know where the gaps are in their learning. So for example, if I click on compare and contrast and then click filter results, it will pop up in all of the levels for compare and contrast books that you could use to match that learning intention. To hop out of that filter, you just click reset and it will take you back. To hop back in, you just click filter. So you've also got your text type as well. So you might want to be focusing on a certain type of text, and you'll be able to go through and filter through those, such as poetry, persuasive text, and so on. I'm going to open up a book now. So starting with the lower levels in magenta, all of the books when you open up, you'll get a brief description at the top, and then it will go into more detail, providing content words, phonics, and just information about the text. Then it will be a follow-up activity that the student can do once they've completed the reader. Down the left-hand side, you've got the reading level, whether the book's fiction or non-fiction, the theme or topic, strategy and skills that are being learnt. But the amazing thing for the lower levels is you have your high frequency words. So if you've got a particular word that you're wanting to focus on for the week, such as the or is, then you can just open up those lower level books and have a look at those high frequency words, and they'll outline those there for you. You've also got your support materials. So these are all printable, but if students don't have access to a printer, you can use an internet-based free app called Showbie, and you can download these individual worksheets and then open them up in Showbie, and it will change it from being printable to digital. So that means students can work straight onto the worksheet, or you can work straight onto the worksheet, and you'll be able to share it amongst yourselves. If you want me to show you more about that later on, I can at the end of the session. So you've got your black line master here, which is like your follow-up activity, your lesson plan, which is fantastic if you're wanting to continue a guided reading remote program. For example, you would have this open, as well as your book called The Fish in another tab. And then you could be having a session such as this where you invite your students along, and you'll be able to go through, have a look at how you introduce the text, what questions you need to ask your students, and then you can flip back and forth between your book, all whilst engaging with your students through the audio of whatever interactive platform you're using. I've tried it with some students and it does work. It's fantastic to just have those meaningful conversations and break down the text together. You've also got your printable reader. This does print out like a book. So for those students that are going to be returning tomorrow, you might like to print this out for them, and it can be their own copy of the book. That way you're not going to be handling books and passing them around and sharing. It will be their own one, just to keep everyone safe during this time. You've also got the printable wordless readers. So this is fantastic for sequencing. You can print it out. Again, it would be like the student's own book, and they can practice writing the beginning, middle, and end. I've also got the word cards here. I'm going to hop out of this one and just go into a higher level. We'll just wait for that to load. All right. All right, so same thing, you've got the description, detail, so on, but I wanted to show you the discussion cards. These are particularly fantastic for the older students because it starts off with an individual activity for the student. Then it goes into a peer activity, which is great for collaborating and oral language. Then it goes into a team activity, so it can be a group of students. And then there's always a writing activity too. So you may select a book and you can break it down, and these can be the follow-up activities for the rest of the week if you wanted to, depending on how long it takes your students. If you open up a book, you like the detail that's included and you would like to include this into your planning, click the bookmark and it will add down into my bookmarks. When we jump into reading groups a little bit later on, you'll be able to see what books you have bookmarked, and that will just make your planning really easy because you'll know, oh, I liked that one, perfect, I can add it. So to open a book, you'll click on the play button and it will open it up. You'd have noticed when I opened it, there were no sounds, there's no avatars. It's the same for the students. Wushka is purely about supporting reading and reading for comprehension. You'll also be able to play narration. I'm not going to do it through Zoom because it doesn't sound fantastic. Obviously, if you were to do guided reading with students, they would be reading to you. It wouldn't be through audio, but when they do independent reading, they could then play through their device and have that narration for them. Starting at the lower levels, it is slower, and then as you get higher up, it will sound more like talking. So to go through the pages, you just click the arrow and it will go through each of the pages. When you finish, make sure to tell your students and parents don't click the back button, otherwise it won't record how long they had the book open. Always click the X and then it will ask you, would you like to complete this quiz for the school reader? Now, you'll be able to turn this function on or off individually or for the whole class, and I'll show you how to do that later on, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to click yes. And now I've got get started. So you'll be provided with 5 questions. They're based on literal, inferential, and evaluative questions. The questions were developed through Bloom's taxonomy. So I'm just going to quickly go through, answer these. Obviously, I haven't read the book, so I've just gone through. We'll see what my result is. It provides you with your score. There's no noise letting you know, oh, you've done terribly. You can go click finish. And if you'd like, you can go back, reread the story again and try the comprehension quiz again, because we encourage rereading for comprehension, and all of that will be recorded under the student statistics. So now I'm going to go back to my dashboard. I'm going to go into manage class list. So it's really important to set up this table first before you go and generate your student letters and provide them with their login details. You can give them their login details first, but just know that when they do log on, if you haven't set this table up, they'll have access to 650 plus books at all levels. So it might be a bit confusing for those younger readers. So I'm going to break down this table for you now. In the first column, you've got the student's first name. In the second column, their surname. In the third column, you've got their username. Now this username cannot be changed. You can, however, when you enter it or the student enters it, use lowercase letters. Students are going to be using their own devices at home, so encourage them to save Wushka as a favorite and then save their username and password for ease of signing in. For those who are going to be using shared devices, possibly at school, what you can do for those lower levels is sign into your teacher Wushka and then go to student login. You can then hand the device to the student and they'll be able to find their name, and when they click on it, it will log out of your teacher login and log automatically into theirs. You've then got the password. So if you haven't set up your table yet, it may look something like this, temp password. You can change this individually by clicking on the blue dotted line and typing in whatever password you would like the students to use. For example, 123. Always click the white tick in the red box. Now, it would take a really long time to click on each of these blue dotted lines individually for each student. So this manage class list button is really important if you're wanting to set something for your whole class. So I'm going to click on set class password, and you can type in whatever password you want. It might be room 1, Wushka, 123, whatever you think would suit your class and your students. So the next two levels, reading level and level access, relate to independent reading. So independent reading is not their guided reading level, it's one below. So this is the reading that they need to be able to do on their own without a parent, caregiver, teacher, older sibling sitting with them. So for example, if student A was reading at blue level 9, I'm going to set this to yellow level 6 to 8, one below their guided reading level. When I move over to level access and click the down arrow, I've got a range of different options. So reading group only would mean only their guided reading group books will show. Reading level only would mean only their reading level under their independent reading books would show. Then you've got reading level, which is their independent, and one above, which would mean that they'd have access to their reading level and their guided reading level. The one that we recommend is reading level and one level below. You've also got reading level and levels below, so that means that they would have yellow and red and magenta. Then you've got level below and reading level. So it's up to you what you want, but I would highly recommend do reading level and one below, and remember to click the white tick in the red box to save. Make sure you go through and do this for all of your students, remembering one level below their guided. The next two columns link to their guided reading. So to set up your groups, you go up to Manage Class, Create Reading Group, and you'll type in each of your group names. Take these from your group names that you have in class currently, particularly tomorrow when we go into a sort of a mixed learning environment, some at home, some at school. If they're all doing the same program, it will just make ease of planning for you. So you can see here I've got a range of different options. I'll talk about why I've got Wales and then Wales Independent, as well as I've got Project Space and some other different book box ideas there. So you'd type in your name and click Create Group and repeat those two steps for every single group that you have. Then when you click on the blue dotted line and click the down arrow, all of your groups will appear. So you'll just put the student in whatever group that they're going to be in and click the tick. Reading group permissions. Now this links to whether you're going to be doing a remote guided reading program. For example, student A is in the Wales group. They're going to be joining me tomorrow at 10 a.m. on Zoom for a guided reading session. I don't want them to have access to their Wales guided reading group book box yet, so I'm going to make sure that I'd set their permission to off. Then at 9:55, just before they're about to hop onto their session, I'm going to sign on, go to Reading Group Permissions, click on the blue dotted line and click on. So now when they log on, they'll be able to see their Wales guided reading book box. When they finish, again, log back on and click off. Then I also spoke about why I had Wales Independent in there. So if you wanted to be structured and create an independent reading book box, maybe you've got an inquiry project such as space and you want them to be reading independent books about space, or maybe you know that student has a particular passion and you're trying to really push them to enjoy reading, you might use the filter button to theme some maybe sports and have an independent reading book box about sports. You would then create an independent book box for those students. So then in that case, you would leave them in their independent book box and they would still have levels below as well, but it would be more structured. So you would say to them, all right, I want you to make sure that you read one of your Wales independent books each day. So they'll make sure they do that. But then again, if they were joining for a guided reading session, you would go into their reading group instead of permissions and you'd flip between the reading groups. So they're independent now and they can't be in two places at one time. So just before, at 9:55 before their session starts, I'm going to put them into the Wales guided reading group So now they've got access to the guided reading books that we're going to be focusing on for that session. When it ends, I'll go back into reading group and pop them back into their Wales Independent book box. It's just a more structured way that you can plan your Wushka. Now, these are all just options. You can use Wushka only for independent reading and just set up reading level and level access for independent reading and get started, and that's fine. Reading group and reading group permissions, this is just like added extra. If you're wanting to do remote guided reading or guided reading in class, this is where you can set it up. But again, it's all just an option. You can keep it as simple or as complex as you like. I discussed earlier that you can put the narration on or off for the whole class or individual students. So you'll find later on when I show you in the statistics that you can find if a student is purely only listening to the narration, which is fantastic for oral language, but if they're doing it 85 to 100% of the time, you might like to switch that off for that individual student. So to do that, you click on the blue dotted line, click no, and then the tick. If you're wanting to turn it on or off for the whole class, you go up to manage class, set class narration, yes to keep it on for everyone, no to turn it off for everyone. So it's completely up to you. The quizzes, which I showed you earlier, again, you can turn this on or off for the whole class by going up to manage class, set class quizzes, compulsory or optional. You've got different options there. So not required, maybe because a student is at home and they don't have support. Maybe their parents are an essential worker and they don't get home until quite late and they're not able to spend that quality time. I don't know, everyone's got a different situation at home, and the quizzes are not audio, so they're not voice recorded. You do need someone next to you reading out those questions if you are a younger child. So for that particular student, you might turn it off individually for them and put not required. For those who do have support at home or those who are joining you for a guided reading session remotely or in class, you'd select either optional or compulsory. When school resumes as normal, you can click school only. So that means the quiz will only pop up between school hours of 8 AM to 4 PM, and home only is everything outside of that. So you can cater and make this as unique to your class and your students' needs as you like. If you have a student pop up through middle of the year and you need to add them, you can easily add them by filling out these details and clicking add student, and they'll pop up with everything not set. So you'll set everything up for them in the table and they'll be good to go. If you've got a mass upload, say 5 students, that's when you would email your program coordinator and they could upload it for you nice and easy. I'm going to go into reading groups now. You can access it down the bottom here or by going to my dashboard and manage reading groups. Down the left-hand side, you've got all of your different levels. On the right-hand side, you've got your groups. So if I click Wales, let's see where I've got some students. There we go. I'm going to go Wales Independent. I've got student A in there, so it will show you what students are in the group. I'm just going to go back to Wales now. I said that they were the students that were in Wales were independent reading yellow level 6 to 8, so they're guided as blue. To add a book, you just click the plus in the top left-hand corner. It will remove from this side and add over on this side into their book box. So I'll do that again, and you can see that there. If you don't have any bookmarked books and you're not sure what the book is about, click the magnifying glass and it will give you a brief description. To delete a book, if you've made a mistake, you just click X and it will hop out of the book box back into the side. At the end of the week or whenever you would like to redo your planning, whether it be fortnightly, monthly, whatever suits you, you will archive the books by clicking on the folder. This will remove the book and add it back over to the book box. But instead of having a plus, it will now have a folder. That's to indicate this group's had this book before. It doesn't mean they can't have it again. You just click on the folder and it will pop back over. It's just to let you know that they've had it once before. Now, I showed you earlier to bookmark a book, that's what it will look like. It will pop up with a yellow star. So if you see that, you know, oh, I wanted that book for a reason. So you'll continue to do this for each of your students, adding your books. If you want to delete your books at the end of the week, instead of clicking archive for each individual book, which could take a while, especially if you're planning for a fortnight, click on this tool icon and click archive all books. If you've made a mistake and need to delete all of them, click delete. To archive because they've read them and you're doing another week's planning, click archive. If you need to rename the group, just click rename. The reason I've got different rooms up here is because I'm the program coordinator, so they'll be able to jump between rooms. I'm going to now go into helpful resources by clicking on my dashboard, scrolling down to helpful resources. On the left-hand side, we've got information for schools, and on the right-hand side, we've got items to send home. So this is just to keep the pathway between school and home strong. We've got some information for the coordinator, teachers, reading level correlation chart, but all of these books are based on the Ready to Read colour wheel, which was developed by Learning Media, so you'll all know it quite well. Here we've got support materials for reading assessments. I'm going to open this one up for you because it is possible to do remote running records. I've done it with some students and it worked perfectly. So here, if you have a look at this document, it will have all of the levels and what books you can use for your running records. So what would happen is if I were to hop back into my book box and go into Magenta and find Bubbles Keep Me Clean, under the support materials, it would have running record. So the sheet's there for you. If you want me to tell you a little bit more how to do that at the end of the session, just let me know. You've also got your literacy progress markers, so you can use this in correlation with your student statistics, your teacher OTJ, if you do a running record, you'll be able to use that to make the decision whether the student needs to move up a level or not, and it will help to report back to parents during this time as well if you needed information for your assessment folders. We've got parent leaflets, and I've got a school newsletter here and emails, Facebook links, so if you're communicating through social media, we've got posts here. We've also got the student logon details with a little brief explanation of what Wushka is about. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard now and go into Manage Class List. To print out your student login details, the reason I haven't shown you that is I just wanted to show you the table first, but you'll go up to Manage Class and click Generate Student Letters. This will open up a PDF. Before you send it out to all of your students, for privacy reasons, I suggest that you use a snipping tool. So to use a snipping tool on a Windows, you'd go to the Windows star icon and you'd open it up and just start typing snipping tool, and it will automatically open up for you and you'll be able to crop these. Otherwise, you can just copy and paste. If you're on a Mac, you can do Shift Control 4 and it will come up with a little cross and you'll be able to drag and cut whatever section you would like. And you can then enter that information into that helpful resource that I showed you. I'm going to go into student statistics now. Oh, sorry, I'm going to go class statistics. I tell a lie. Class statistics. So here you'll have all of your students down the left-hand side. You'll have how many readers they've completed, how long they've had their books open for, how many readers they're reading per week on average, and their quiz results. So this is a great indication. You can sort of see here, Hector's had his book open for 25 seconds and his comprehension is quite low. So that might indicate to me I need to look a little bit further. So I'm going to click on student statistics, wait for that to load. I'm going to scroll down to Hector and have a look further at his information. So here I've got how many new books they've read and how many books they have reread. So this is fantastic because we encourage rereading for comprehension. Here we've got how many books they've, as a percentage that they've read that have been issued to them and how many are unread. Here's where I said you'd be able to see how many fiction and non-fiction books they have. So remember, you can set for the individual student when you go through the filter, if you just want to choose some non-fiction books or fiction books. And here's the narration, where you'd be able to see if they're listening to narration too often, and you might turn it off for that individual student. When you scroll down and click on See All Quiz Results, it will open up and give you some more information. So remember, Hector only had his book open for 25 seconds and his comprehension was 40%. If you look here, he's reading at 10:38 p.m. at night. We don't encourage devices in the bedroom late, so this might be a conversation that you'd have with the parents or caregiver. Here you'll get some more information about their comprehension quiz results. If you wanted more information, you'll click View, and you'll be able to see if the question was inferential, literal or evaluative, and make it a OTJ of whether you need to teach where some of those gaps may be. I'm now going to go into the student login to show you what a student would see. We'll go on. Hopefully student A's got some books so I can show you. All right, so here you can see that they, when they log on, they'll have their independent reading books. They cannot currently see their guided reading book box. So I'm going to log out of them just to quickly show you what they'll see when I switch that permission back on. So I'm going to go and manage class list. I'm going to go to the reading permissions because it was off. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to put them in their Wales guided reading. And I'm going to go back into my student login. Did I make that on or off? You want it on. Always need to remember to click the save. Right, so student login, student A. So their permission is now on. So when they log on for their guided reading session, they'll be able to see Reading Group Wales, and then you can instruct them through the audio of whatever interactive platform. Can you please open Let's Go Exploring? And then they'll be able to click on that book. They'll get a brief description, a follow-up activity, some ideas of other books that they might like if they enjoyed this one, and their reading level. If they really liked that book, they can click favorite and it will add to their favorites box down the bottom. I'm going to open the book so you can see that it's just the same as what you see. No sounds, no avatars, no distractions at all. It's purely just reading. I've turned the narration off for the student. So if it was on, it would have had the play button up the top right-hand corner. And I can go through and read the book. Again, when I finish, I don't click the back button, I click the blue X. And I've made the quiz compulsory, so it automatically pops up and says get started, and then they'll go through and complete the quiz. When they click on my page down the bottom here, it will load their assessment results. So they can see the same as what you can see. This will provide no data because they've completed no quizzes. It's just a fictitious student. But if the student had been reading for the week, there would have been some data there. So nothing's a secret. We want them to know where they are in their learning, and we want them to be able to know where their next steps are. If you click on online quizzes, they haven't completed any here, but it would pop up and give them their quiz results, just like what I showed you earlier. All right, I'm going to open up my chat now. If you would like me to cover something and go over it again, please let me know. For those of you who have joined me who aren't signed up to Wushka, it would be great to have you come on board. And I shared a little quote last week with the last group of teachers that I have had. You might have seen this on Facebook, but I absolutely loved it. It was a Dr. Seuss quote, and it said, "I will teach you in a room. I will teach you now on Zoom. I will teach you in a house. I will teach you with my mouse. I will teach you here or there. I will teach because I care." And I think it perfectly sums up teachers' ability to adapt to any situation, because we want the best for our students. And Wushka is just a tool that's making it easier for you to be able to do that, so you don't have double the planning and can continue your guided and independent reading groups and it's just an extension of that. So please, in the chat, feel free to put questions. If you want me to explain project groups, let me know. If you want me to show you Shobi, let me know. I'm going to have a look now. Can you cover archiving a student via the class list page, please? Yeah, sure. I'm just going to log out of the student page, log in. All right, so to archive a student, I'm going to go to switch to school, students. So only the program coordinator will be able to do this. And then I'm going to click manage class. So you can archive class, archive students, or view archive class. So if you've added a student and you've accidentally made a mistake and you want to remove them from here, say if you were in your teacher coordinator page and you added a student and went, oh my goodness, I need to remove them, just let your program coordinator know and they can remove them for you. So you'd select the student in the box, manage class, and then click the archive student. So you can choose which student you want to remove. For example, who do I not need? I'll click Billy Jones, and they've been removed. So now if I go to, oh, so I'm just going to hop back into chat. So now they've been removed, they've been archived. Also, you can see who's been deleted by clicking on the delete, but it's in the program coordinator page where you'll be able to archive students. Oh, it is annoying. Yeah, I've done that. When you add a student, instead of waiting, just click the refresh button, because sometimes it can take a little bit of time to upload. So whenever I'm uploading a class, I'll always upload them, click refresh, and then it usually pops up. Because when I first started using Wushka and learning how to upload, I remember adding a class like 3 times and it was so annoying. Where was the statistics found again on the teacher's screen? So when you're in the teacher screen, let's switch to teacher. So to access it, when you log on, it will open up and you'll be able to see on the coloured tiles here, class statistics or student statistics, as well as down the bottom here along the bar, you've got class statistics and student statistics. So class is just a snapshot of the whole class as a whole, and then student statistics, it goes a lot deeper into how they're actually going with their comprehension. Any more questions? So I'm just scrolling up to read people's questions. Did you want me to show you Shobi? Yeah, okay. So Shobi is spelled like that. If at any point you cannot see my screen, just let me know. So it's shobi.com. Can you all see that? Just write yes if you can see my Shobi screen. Yeah, perfect. So you'll, it's all free. So you just sign on and set up your own account. You would be a teacher. Students can have their own accounts too. So I've already gone on and set mine up. So just wait for it to load. So I've just put in my password and username details there. And so this is my class. So you would probably put room 1, room 2. And so when you open it, you'll be able to create different tabs along the side. So it might be reading, math. I've got running records here. So when I click on running records, I've got shared items. So you can keep items to yourself, or you can share them with your students. So once they've signed up to Shobi, you can just send them a code and they'll have access to these worksheets. So when you click on shared items, this is where you can upload your worksheets from wherever actually. So it doesn't have to necessarily be from Wushka. It could be, say if you're at school and you're wanting to keep things easy, and you've got a worksheet in your resource folder, you can just upload it, scan it and upload it to your computer. And then to add it, you just click the plus, add from computer, from whatever folder it's saved from. Then I'd go in, click upload. I've already got it, it's just going to add it again. And you can see it's just popped up. So then you open up that document and you'll see you've got a bar up the top here with different tools, but it's quite small at the moment. So to make it bigger, you can click the magnifying glass and it will just make it a bit larger for you, and you can continue to do that to whatever size that you want. So you've got the pen here. When you click the down bar, it will give you a range of colors and thicknesses. Again, you've got another pen, you've got an eraser. You can write little notes for your students. For example, if they're older, you can click it and then give a little comments and say, make sure to write your name and save it. So when they log on, they'll go, oh, Mrs. Brewer said, make sure you write your name. You can also record yourself saying things. So instead of a note that they have to read, they can just click play and then it will play back to them what you want them to do. So it might be an explanation of what the worksheet activity is. And then the T is obviously for text box. So I'm just going to show you quickly. So I am currently typing. But see how it took a little bit of time for it to pop up? You'll know that it's waiting to type because this little icon here will be spinning. So don't delete it or think that it's not working. It is. The text box is just a little bit slower. So then they'll be able to write their name, add text box. You can do this all for them to pre-set it up and then just make it to the size. And then you would share this document with them. And so when they go on, they can just draw a picture using the pen, whatever they want. They can erase it. They can type because you have added a text box. So that's Shobi. And then they'll just click done and it would take them back. So you can share it. You've got options here. I'll just quickly jump in the chat to make sure I'm not missing any questions. So when I did a running record, I opened it up. I wrote the student's name and the date using the text box function. And then I made myself a key by using the pen. So for example, how I did it was I set up a Zoom meeting with one student. I created a reading group called Running Record, and I only popped them into that reading group just before their session. So by using the permissions and the reading group function. So when they came on to the Zoom session, they couldn't see me, but they had my audio. I told them to open up the book. They started reading and I just had a key. So for mistakes, you could have yellow. For self-corrections, you could have orange. If you wanted to put a dot for every time they got a word right, you could use green, but I found that quite hard. I just stuck to the mistakes and self-corrections. So for example, they'd go along, one day Nick came, and they might get that wrong. They might go back and reread. Again, you can make this bigger. So they reread back to 1 to try and sound out came. They kept going. If they did a pause, you might do a line in between. And then you can just save this, add up their mistakes and self-corrections just as you would, work out their accuracy rate and their self-correction rate. You can add text boxes here. So when you ask them to retell the story, you can just type it right in. The other amazing thing is by doing running records remotely and through an interactive platform, you can record them. So even if you can't keep up with going through and using Shobi and putting all of your key for rereading, mistakes, etc., you can just record the session and go back and listen to it and then fill out this document. As well as if you do have access to a printer, you can just print this out and have it next to you and write on it as you usually would in a normal running record. Yeah, they do. I'm quite sure they do need to go on and get Shobi. I've only heard good things about it, because when they have their access to it, then you can just share codes with them. And it's like, as I said, it can be with math worksheets, topic worksheets, Wushka worksheets. I just find it an amazing tool to be able to just change a printable document to a digital document. Students can just go straight on and work straight onto the worksheet that you've set up with little notes and recordings. And it would just be a perfect, if I was still teaching, I'd definitely use it. Can I be a guest? I have not seen that. I will have a look and see if they can be a guest. Let's see. No, switch to the home tab. No, it looks like you have to invite your students. It says you don't have any students yet. Switch to the home tab and invite your students. So I wonder, what if do you want to test it and I can send you one of my, wonder if you can log on to Shobi, and then if I sent you the code, you'd be able to access it. Does anyone want to try? So there's the code. Try it. Log on to Shobi and give it a go and see if you can access what I've given you. So to get a copy of this, go to email support@wushka.com.au. Just say your name, where what session you attended. So it would be the Wushka webinar New Zealand, and just say that you'd like a copy of this video and the chat, and they'll send it straight to you. And you can share that. But again, if you get stuck at any point and you think, oh my goodness, I've just got a really quick thing that I need to figure out, but I don't want to watch this whole video because I can't remember when Hope spoke about it, just email your local rep, the Support at Wushka team, with your question, or myself. My email for you. Or myself, and then we can quickly get back to you with the answer. Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad you came. Is there anything else you want me to cover again? Is there anyone still unsure about how to set up the managed class list table? I'll quickly tell you as well. So for those older students who are now reading for information, they're not necessarily reading to learn, you might like to create project reading groups. So if I flip back to Wushka and go to manage reading groups, you'll see here that I've got project space. So I added a range of books, and students, you may have an inquiry topic such as space or sports or animals, mini beasts. So you can filter the books and create the group for whatever it may be. And then students who are collaborating for a certain project can then go onto Wushka, access this project space reading group, and then kickstart their inquiry project, because they'll have access to a range of different levels and information to gather for their project that they're doing. It's also great if you wanted to do a reading club for students who might not necessarily like reading, or students who love reading. And you can just pull students from your class that maybe at different levels, but they might be similar, and you can just pick a theme that they could then read books on, and could all, you know, get together afterwards and talk about the books that they read. So it's not just learning to read, it can be reading to learn as well. So it can be flipped. You can really explore and cater to what you want your class to have access to. Oh, thanks, Tara and Dave. I'm so glad that you've got a lot out of it. Let me know if anyone else has any further questions. Otherwise, I'll wrap it up here.
And I have a quick one before you go.
Yeah, sure.
When we unclick, let's say, to make the group box available for guided reading, do we have to do that for every single child, or is it just when you do one, it changes the access for all of them in that group?
No, it will be individual. So if you're doing reading group permissions, you
Yeah.
can turn it on and off for the whole class by clicking
Okay.
manage class grade
Yeah.
button that I kept referring to. So that's sort of where you go to manage for the whole class.
Thank you.
And if you click set class permissions, then you
Yeah.
can turn it on or off for the whole class. So if
Okay.
you want the guided reading to be off for everyone, select off, and now none of them will be able to access, as you can see. And then as students pop up for their group, say it's 3 or 5 of them, you just find their name under the column and then go to reading group permissions and then put it back to on. But if you were doing the reading group and you're flipping between different reading groups, maybe you've got your guided reading, independent reading, a project group, you would just keep the reading group permissions to on.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to flip between the different groups. So it's always going to have access, but if you've got different groups, you just put them into whatever group you want them to be at that particular time, because they can't be in 2 places at one time, obviously. So yeah, when they're not doing guided reading or project group, then you just keep them in the independent group book box.
Yeah.
And you can make it really structured.
That makes more sense, like, rather than go through and click each one each time, that you can,
the manage class list button is where you can do a lot, for setting up for the whole class, and then you can just go from there and change where you need to, particularly for the permissions, narration and quizzes, where you'd probably have it set to the same thing for the whole class. It's just those reading level access and the reading groups, which would differ quite a lot amongst students, where you'd have to click individually on the blue line and change them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I would love if you could join Wushka if you haven't already, so I can get to know you. If you have already joined Wushka, I hope that this has been really helpful for you and that you understand all the different ways you can use it and how to set it up. Again, feel free to let me know if you need help with anything, or email the support team. This is in no way a replacement of us. We're always here for you. And enjoy the rest of your evening, and I wish you well for those of you returning on site tomorrow. Keep safe and look after yourselves. All right, you can,
Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free to leave